Breaking Through News is continuing our coverage of the 4 individuals charged with the violent and brutal beating of Charlottesville resident DeAndre Harris following the deadly and chaotic August 12, 2017 white nationalist Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville, Virginia that left 3 people dead and scores of others injured, including Harris. Earlier this spring, we had reported that both white nationalist Jacob Goodwin and alt-right Make America Great Again hat-wearing Alex Ramos Jr. were both found guilty of maliciously wounding Harris during separate jury trials. After finding them guilty, the respective juries recommended that Jacob Goodwin spend 10 years in a state correctional facility and that Ramos Jr. spend 6 years in a state correctional facility. Both men are scheduled to be sentenced on August 23rd of this year. A third defendant, Daniel Borden, was originally scheduled to stand trial today, June 6, 2018, but after seeing Goodwin and Ramos both roll the dice with a jury and get convicted, Borden decided to plead guilty on May 21st, avoiding a jury trial. A defendant is more likely to be sentenced within his pre-sentence report guidelines when pleading guilty. The way this works is that for every crime, there are standard sentencing guidelines. For example, malicious wounding is a Class 3 felony and carries a penalty of 5 to 20 years in prison. But then there are pre-sentence report guidelines. After a defendant is convicted by trial or by pleading guilty, a circuit court judge will order a pre-sentence report. The pre-sentence report is prepared by a probation officer and includes various background about the defendant, like family, education, and employment history. The pre-sentence report will have its own sentencing recommendations, and it will give a low end, mid, and high end for sentencing. So for example, for a malicious wounding, the guidelines could suggest 3 years on the low end, 7 years on the mid, and 12 on the high. We are not saying those are the guidelines in this case, but just using this as an example that we got from someone else's pre-sentence report in a similar case. Judges are not obligated to abide by the guidelines in the pre-sentence report and can sentence a defendant that pleads guilty to the standard guidelines. But in most cases, when a defendant pleads guilty, the judge sentences the defendant within those guidelines. A pre-sentence report has been ordered for Borden, and he is scheduled to be sentenced on October 1st of this year. The last innocent until proven guilty defendant left in the cowardly beating of DeAndre Harris is Tyler Watkins Davis. Davis is scheduled for a 2-day jury trial starting on July 16, 2018. As we have reported in the past, DeAndre Harris was charged with assault and battery for an incident on August 12th as well, but that case was dismissed on March 16th, 2018. Now there are 2 black men still being prosecuted by the Charlottesville Commonwealth's Attorney's Office in connection with the August 12th chaos. One of those men is Corey Alexander Long. Long is charged with assault and battery and disorderly conduct, both misdemeanors. He has a hearing this Friday, June 8th in Charlottesville General District Court. The other black man charged is Donald Blakeney. Blakeney faces a more serious charge of felony malicious wounding. Blakeney is scheduled to stand trial by a jury on August 31st, 2018 in Charlottesville Circuit Court. To learn more about these defendants and their cases, you can contact SURJ, short for Showing Up for Racial Justice, Charlottesville. They intend to have a large gathering at the courthouse this Friday to show support for Corey Long and to protest prosecutor Joe Platena's prosecution of Long. And just as the wounds begin to heal and Charlottesville seems to have recovered from that fateful day last August, white supremacist Jason Kessler is gearing up to hold a similar rally this year, which he has named the Unite the Right Anniversary Rally. Kessler plans on holding the rally, showing no respect or concern for the families of slain anti-racist activist Heather Heyer, nor for the families of Lieutenant Jay Cullen and Trooper Burke Bates, the 2 Virginia State police officers that died after their helicopter crashed while assisting officers with the protests. They were the pilot and co-pilot of that helicopter. The city has previously denied Kessler's request to hold the rally this year in Emancipation Park, but Kessler announced back in March of 2018 that his attorney, Elmer Woodard, had filed a lawsuit against the city of Charlottesville for denying Kessler a permit to hold the rally. It must be noted that Woodard has represented more than his fair share of white supremacists and neo-Nazis, including Jacob Goodwin. Breaking Through will continue its coverage of the many spin-off stories that are all connected to that fateful day that will be seen as a tarnishment on race relations in this country for years to come. In Charlottesville, Theodore Whitelow for Breaking Through.